Are we ready for a new world order?
As you mentioned, mine is the first visit of a Canadian Prime Minister to China in nearly a decade. The world has changed much since that last visit. And I believe the progress that we have made in the partnership sets us up well for the new world order.
Prime Minister Brian Platt with Bloomberg News. Yesterday when you met with Premier Lee, one of the things you said in the public remarks was this partnership with Canada and China, this new partnership, sets us up well for the new world order. What did you mean by that? What is the new world order?
Well, it's a great question, Brian, because I think the world is still determining what that order is going to be. And let's be clear what we're talking about first and foremost, which is what is going to govern global trade?
I'm going to call this video Shedding 2026, and you'll see why as we move along. Welcome to 2026. Do you wish you could go back to 2025 yet? With so many wars and rumors of wars, civil unrest, fluctuating currencies, and changing dynamics between powers, it's understandable why anyone would like to go back to just last year. The manufactured chaos you are seeing is part of a larger plan and is being created so that you will accept the order that the elite want you to accept. Psalm 64, verses 2, 5, and 6 say, "Hide me from the conspiracy of the wicked, from the plots of evildoers. They encourage each other in evil plans. They talk about hiding their snares. They say, 'Who will see it?' They plot injustice and say, 'We have devised a perfect plan.' Surely the human mind and heart are cunning." With that in mind, I would like to reintroduce you to one of the plans of the elite in the form of The Economist magazine. The largest shareholder of the corporation that owns this magazine, which covers issues of world power, is the Rothschild family. Even the logo of The Economist magazine is in the shape of a red shield, which is exactly what the name Rothschild or Rothschild means in the German language. The Rothschilds are the same family which were the driving force behind the creation of the State of Israel more than 30 years in advance. Every December, The Economist magazine publishes an issue called The World Ahead. This issue isn't about the elite trying to guess future trends as much as it is about the elite revealing their plans. Those who have the means, motive, and opportunity to make their plans happen don't usually write their plans down in case those plans get discovered. Instead, the elite use the occult pseudosciences of symbology, numerology, and so-called sacred geometry to encode their plans, which then get put out right in front of the public. This practice is known as the revelation of the method, or predictive programming. The elite believe that if the public doesn't notice when they make their plans known in a sly way, especially through desensitization in repetition, then the public deserves the fate that the elite have for them. Here are the plans that the elite have for you in 2026, which are already in motion, based on the front cover of The Economist magazine. There is a growing military divide symbolized by tanks between the East and the West, all based on the crumbling US dollar. The military divide is no longer centered on Ukraine, which was America and NATO's failed attempt through their puppet Zelensky to use Ukraine as a battering ram to break up Russia and to seize its natural resources. Zelensky himself admitted this in an interview 3 years ago, also through The Economist magazine.
Я думаю, що у всіх різні інтереси. Причому у всіх у Заходу є ті, хто хоче, щоб ця війна йшла довго. Тому що це буде виснаження Росії, але ціною України, ціною життя людей. Це точно вигідно деяким країнам. Іншим країнам вигідно зробити так, щоб ця війна швидко закінчилась, Тому що вони нічого не можуть зробити, а ринок російський для них великий, і вони страждають через це. Друге. Треті країни хочуть і хотіли, щоб Росія пішла з деяких ринків. Деякі країни реально, багато країн, реально розуміють, що це нацизм, те, що відбувається у нас, і по-іншому не можуть, просто вбивають наших людей, і вони точно хочуть, щоб Україна перемогла. Є м'які країни, які також виступають за нас, повністю нас підтримують, але які більш ліберальні, більш гуманітарні і кажуть, що будь-якою ціною треба закінчити. Але вони, коли кажуть будь-якою ціною, вони думають про людей. Є ще одні країни, які кажуть, будь-якою ціною треба завершити, тому що вони є, скажімо так, я би так їх назвав, офіси Російської Федерації в Європі.
Which of those four groups does Britain come into? You give 4 examples of countries. Which is Britain?
Британія точно за нас. Вона не грається в балансі. Британія сьогодні, напевно, одна із найдезальтернативних вихідів з цієї ситуації. Вона за те, щоб Україна перемогла, Росія програла. Чи хоче Британія, щоб це було довго, не готовий сказати.
Can I just ask about the United States? Can I guess that they are in group 1?
We'll see.
More seriously,
But they help.
they are
We have to know, yes, they are helping because when we speak about the exactly weapon, etc., because a lot of countries in Europe, in NATO especially, yeah, they add many, like our soldiers say, many instruments, and that's why the USA pushed a lot of countries to help us with it, but a little bit slowly than we need.
Instead of going east-west, conflict is now going north-south from Greenland to Venezuela in a battle for the control of routes and resources, symbolized by the crossed swords over America and plenty of missiles everywhere. It's also not an accident that America's seizure of cargo ships as an act of war is also depicted on the front cover. America captured Nicolas Maduro of Venezuela for a number of reasons. No, I'm not going to paint Maduro as some kind of saint. This is just another case of a shark being bitten by a larger shark. First, there is the obvious play to secure the world's largest supply of oil in Venezuela. President Trump has appointed American oil company CEOs to be in charge of what happens to this resource, all under the financing of Elliott Management's Paul Singer. Zionist Paul Singer is a large donor to the Trump campaign. This is similar to President Trump's handing over the Panama Canal, built at the American taxpayers' expense, to BlackRock. While America's debt will hit $40 trillion in 2026, BlackRock is sitting on trillions in profits. Second, there is a play to secure Venezuela's large gold reserves and deposits of other critical rare earth minerals. If President Trump finally makes good on his promise to display the gold at Fort Knox, it will probably be done with Venezuelan gold. The last time the gold at Fort Knox was audited was in 1953. Third, now that the leadership of Venezuela has been toppled, the way is clear for the USA to beta test smart cities in that nation under American control. The American public was brainwashed into accepting the takeover of Venezuela with video after video of the American Navy blowing up one boat after another. These boats were in international waters and were allegedly carrying drugs to America from Venezuela without any part of the United States government proving this point at all. Innocent fishing boats were blown up, all under the pretext of stopping the drug trade from Venezuela to America. While Venezuela does provide illegal drugs to America, 90% of the illicit drug trade from Central America comes from Colombia and Ecuador, according to Statista. The lies about Venezuela and Maduro never stopped, as it was claimed by the United States government that Maduro was part of a drug cartel that never existed. Finally, the government of Venezuela was toppled as a giant wag-the-dog strategy to act as a distraction away from the present American administration's ties to Jeffrey Epstein that just won't go away. Less than 1% of the Epstein files have been released. Fortunately, the Trump administration is so incompetent that many of the documents which have been released so far have been redacted in a manner that allows researchers like myself to unredact them. If you want to know who owns President Trump besides the banksters and the titans of tech, just look to the 2025 White House Hanukkah party and President Trump's speech at the Israeli Knesset in 2025.
And these people do like Israel. Hold on. And he loves Israel too. It's true. 2 seconds. 6 years ago, I was up here, and I said, "This is our first Jewish president." Now he's the first Jewish president to serve two not consecutive presidencies. We thank you for everything.
That's right. Bad things happened on the second one. Namely, the election was rigged. And we found out, and you see that happening. But,
and you are the greatest president.
Thank you very much.
And God bless you. I miss you. I miss you.
take care of that guy. Take care of that guy. There was a lot of pressure put on these presidents. It was put on me too, but I didn't yield to the pressure. But every president for decades said, we're going to do it. The difference is I kept my promise and officially recognized the capital of Israel and moved the American embassy to Jerusalem. Isn't that right, Miriam? Look at Miriam. She's back there. Stand up, Miriam. Stand up. Miriam and Sheldon would come into the office. They'd call me. He'd call me. I think they had more trips to the White House than anybody else I can think of. Look at her sitting there so innocently. She's got $60 billion in the bank. $60 billion. And I think she's saying no more. And she loves Israel, but she loves it, and they would come in, and her husband was a very aggressive man, but I loved him. He was a very aggressive, very supportive of me. And he'd call up, can I come over and see you? I say, Sheldon, I'm the president of the United States. It doesn't work that way. He'd come in with the... But they were very responsible for so much, including getting me thinking about Golan Heights, which is probably one of the greatest things to ever happen to Israel. Miriam, stand up, please. She really is. I mean, she loves this country. She loves this country. Her and her husband are so incredible. We miss him so dearly. But I actually asked her, I'm going to get her in trouble with this, but I actually asked her once, I said, so Miriam, I know you love Israel. What do you love more, the United States or Israel? She refused to answer. That might mean Israel, I must say. We love you. Thank you, darling, for being here. That's a great honor. Great honor. She's a wonderful woman.
Remember, the way of Gaza, with its AI-optimized destruction, will be the way of the world.
Joining us here at Post 9, founder and CEO of Cato Network, Shlomo Kramer, also one of the founders of Checkpoint, another big cyber company. Shlomo, it's great to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
How is AI, cyber warfare, shaping geopolitics right now?
So AI is going to revolutionize cyber warfare, is revolutionizing cyber warfare from critical infrastructure to the fabric of society and politics and undermining it, giving unfair advantage to authoritarian governments against democratic countries. First Amendment type of...
That's already happening?
That's already happening. You're seeing the polarization in countries that allow for the First Amendment and protect it, which is great. And I know it's difficult to hear, but it's time to limit the First Amendment in order to protect it, and quickly before it's too late.
What do you mean?
I mean that we need to control the platforms, all the social platforms. We need to stack rank the authenticity of every person that expresses themselves online and take control over what they are saying based on that ranking.
The government.
The government should
control the social media.
Yeah, should do that. And we need to educate people against ICE, and government need to develop cyber defense programs that are as sophisticated as the cyber attack. Today it's a 1 to 100 ratio. And really, government are not doing this today at any rate, and enterprises are left fending for themselves.
The technology is moving much faster than the political system typically can to respond
right,
to
so
it.
you need to use technology in order to stabilize the political system, and you need to put adjustments that are perhaps not.
I mean, we're at a point, though,
necessary.
right? I mean, I can go on Instagram or TikTok, and frankly, it already is becoming unclear what is fake and what is real.
Exactly.
And once you eliminate that ability to discern truth from fiction, then what are you left with?
You are left with polarization of society and inner fighting, and you have to control that. And you see that already happening across the world. So this is an urgent need by the government to do that. And until then, enterprises are buying by themselves more and more cybersecurity solutions, but they can't afford all these solutions by themselves. So they are looking for ways to deliver more efficient consumption.
And I assume you have some of those ways, obviously.
Right. So, and that drives really the next generation of companies such as Wiz, CrowdStrike, Kato networks on the network that are platforms and are able to deliver this extended need for security in an affordable way for enterprises.
For enterprises,
right.
Not for governments.
Not for government, but government need to start building their programs. And the same tools can be used also by government.
But the two leaders in AI, one is China, which obviously already is using AI to control the population. Yeah. And here we're all out in a race with China. And so we're not as interested in regulation right now, certainly not at the state level, for example.
And that's a big mistake, because if China has a single narrative that protects its inner stability, and the U.S. has allows for multiple narratives, it puts them in an unfair advantage that long-term is going to cost the stability of the nation.
America cheered as Syria was taken over for its oil by the installation of its puppet, Ahmed al-Sharaa. He was an actual member of al-Qaeda to the extent that there was a $10 million bounty on his head. Al-Sharaa was made an offer he couldn't refuse. He trimmed his beard, put on a suit, and was flown to the White House to be sprayed with Trump cologne in a humiliation ritual.
Men's fragrance. Yeah. This is it. It's the best fragrance. Come here, please. I have one here, sir. Okay. So what we'll do is just take that, Joe, put it in, and then the other one is for your wife. How many wives? One or one? You guys, I never know, right?
The same forces that were used to level Gaza, take over Syria, and topple Venezuela will eventually be used on you. The takeover of Venezuela was accomplished with remarkable efficiency because of the American military's high-tech directed energy weapons.
Now, did U.S. use a powerful mystery weapon during the raid to capture Nicolas Maduro? American forces wiped out hundreds of fighters without losing a single soldier. Now, a new report may shed some light on the methods used by them. According to the report, the U.S. used a powerful mystery weapon that rendered Venezuelan soldiers ineffective during the raid. The report is based on an alleged account of the night's event by a Venezuelan guard. Now, the account claims that the weapon brought Venezuelan soldiers to their knees. They were bleeding through the nose and vomiting blood. The alleged witness account was also shared on social media by the White House press secretary. In the interview, the guard allegedly described how U.S. forces use technology unlike anything he has ever seen. He said that all their radar systems shut down without any explanation. It was followed by a lot of drones flying over their positions. He claimed that 8 helicopters arrived moments later. deploying what he estimated were just 20 U.S. troops into the area. But he said that these few men came armed with something far more powerful than guns. The Guard claims that the U.S. troops shot with precision and speed. He said, and I'm quoting, "It felt like each soldier was firing 300 rounds per minute." At one point, U.S. troops launched another weapon, according to the Guard's account. It was like a very intense sound wave, and he felt like his head was exploding from the inside. He claimed that the Venezuelan side started bleeding from the nose, while some were vomiting blood. They were unable to move. An estimated 100 Venezuelan security forces were killed in the January 3 attack.
In conclusion, the Colombian president summarized the situation in Venezuela in a recent speech.
Un clan de pedófilos quiere acabar la democracia en Colombia.
A clan of pedophiles wants to end democracy in Colombia. Harsh, yes, but that is a reality. And so that the list does not appear, then they send us battleships to kill fishermen of the city and threaten the neighbor that if dictator or not, as if the people of Colombia are going to applaud the invasion of their brother, who is not the president, but the people of Venezuela. When will we be this treacherous and sold out that our own blood betrayed it? Either the people of Ecuador or the people of Panama or the people of Venezuela are not our own people.
De que nuestra propia sangre la traicionamos, o el pueblo del Ecuador, o el pueblo de Panamá, o el pueblo de Venezuela no es nuestro propio pueblo. El gobierno de Venezuela ha hecho muchas críticas.
The Venezuelan government has made many criticisms, but I do not make fun of the people of Venezuela, nor do I build a trap for the people of Venezuela to fall into the trap of an invasion that is only after their oil, which is greed and violence, and more to make this beautiful corner of the South American continent, Syria or Iraq, a Libya full of slaves for sale. And, oh, the list of Epstein's friends, who do not want that list to surface in the United States, wants to use us here through violence, so the people of the United States do not focus on our own government.
President Trump is more than interested in Greenland, also for a number of reasons. First, a whole new shipping lane system is being opened up in the Arctic. This is because the Arctic sea ice is thinning and because nuclear-powered icebreakers can run for months at a time. If you wanted to get a shipment from Rotterdam, Europe's largest port, to Yokohama, Japan's largest port, the emergent Arctic route could shave 10 days at sea and roughly $500,000 in diesel fuel. Whoever controls routes and resources controls trade, and it is obvious that if you want to control the emerging Northwest Passage shipping lane, you need to control Greenland. Second, Greenland also has plenty of rare earth minerals along its edge and plenty of oil fields off its shores. Third, Greenland is cold, which makes it an ideal location to place AI data centers, which use up to 40% of their power supply just for cooling. There is one thing that ties Venezuela, Greenland, and the titans of tech like Elon Musk together. The technocracy movement, which developed in the West in the 1920s, said that nations should be governed by scientists and engineers instead of elected politicians. One of the early leaders of the technocracy movement was Joshua Haldeman, maternal grandfather to Elon Musk. This movement published a map in 1940 to set out the boundaries of the North American technate, which looks a lot like what is developing now. There are no coincidences. Iran is paying a price for refusing to accept the American-backed Greater Israel Project. Here's a part of a brief news segment to bring you up to speed on what the Greater Israel Project is all about.
Did you know Israel has never fully defined its borders? Most countries have maps showing exactly where their sovereignty begins and where it ends, but Israel doesn't. Israel's borders with Egypt and Jordan were first set as armistice lines after the 1948 Arab-Israeli War, then formalized through peace treaties in 1979 and 1994. But its borders with Lebanon, Syria, Gaza, and the West Bank remain undefined and unrecognized. Even within Israel itself, no official map shows agreed-upon national boundaries. That ambiguity isn't a mistake, because as long as Israel's borders are not set in stone, they can keep expanding. This is the story of a borderless project, the Zionist vision of Greater Israel and what it means not just for Palestinians, but for the entire region. For more than a century, Zionist leaders have pushed for the establishment of Greater Israel, a state of Israel that would stretch far beyond the territory it controls today. In the late 1800s, well before Israel was established, early Zionist leaders convened to debate their visions for a Jewish state. First, there's Theodor Herzl, a Zionist founder from Vienna who's often called the father of modern Zionism. He envisioned the borders of this future Jewish state running all the way from the Euphrates in Iraq to the Nile in Egypt. Then there's Russian-born Zev Jabotinsky, the ideological forebear of Netanyahu's Likud party. He imagined Israeli sovereignty on both sides of the Jordan River. In 1947, Zionist leaders accepted the UN partition plan that proposed dividing Palestine into two separate states, one Palestinian and the other Jewish. But it was a tactical move. David Ben-Gurion, Israel's first prime minister, made clear that this was just a first step toward eventually gaining control of all of what he envisioned as Greater Israel. His strategy was to secure international recognition for part of the land first, then build military power to take the rest by force. And that's exactly what happened. In 1948, Israel expanded far beyond the UN partition lines during the Nakba, when Zionist militias violently expelled over 750,000 Palestinians from their homes and destroyed or depopulated over 400 Palestinian towns and villages. In 1967, Israel seized the West Bank, Gaza, the Golan Heights, and the Sinai. It only eventually returned the Sinai to Egypt after Egyptian forces retook the territory during the War of 1973. Ever since then, Israel has continued expanding its territory throughout the West Bank by establishing facts on the ground, settlements, outposts, and military zones that have proven impossible to reverse, despite being illegal under international law. The population of Israeli settlers in the West Bank and East Jerusalem has skyrocketed from just a couple thousand in 1967 to over 800,000 today, with the past year seeing the largest expansion of Israeli settlements to date. For a long time, despite Israel's gradual expansion, most Israeli leaders distanced themselves from Greater Israel proclamations, at least publicly, as to not provoke neighboring Arab countries they sought to normalize relations with. But more radical settler groups like Gush Emunim, a messianic settler movement founded in the 1970s, never abandoned the Greater Israel vision and continued to tie the expansion of Israeli settlement to religious destiny. Their efforts helped fuel the rapidly growing settler movement we see entrenching its control in the West Bank as we speak.
This is the promise of God to the patriarchs of the Jewish nation. It's 3,000 kilometers. It's almost as big as the Sahara Desert.
So this is the biblical Israel. Yes. Can I call it? Yeah. And this is which countries are these?
And which country? Don't mention.
And today, Greater Israel can no longer be disregarded as a fringe idea. Israel's current government is considered to be the most far-right in Israeli history, led by extremist ministers like Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich, who are making territorial expansion a core component in their political platforms. Even Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has begun openly embracing it, recently calling the project a historic and spiritual mission.
אז אתה שואל אם אני מרגיש שאני בשליחות היסטורית ורוחנית, התשובה היא כן.
It's a statement with huge implications, not just for Palestinians, but for the whole region. Israeli soldiers have been spotted wearing Greater Israel patches as they commit genocide in Gaza, and Israeli leaders are calling for the ethnic cleansing of Gaza's entire population to be replaced by Israeli settlers. Some Israelis have gone as far as openly invoking Nazi Germany's Lebensraum doctrine, land conquest for living space, to push for settlement expansion into areas Israel's occupying in southern Lebanon and Syria. In the West Bank, Israel's government recently approved construction of new settlements that would effectively divide the West Bank in two and prevent the establishment of a contiguous, viable future Palestinian state. Because Israel has never officially defined all of its borders, each war, land grab, and bombing campaign has the potential to redraw the map of Israeli control in the long term. Each new fact on the ground inches Israel closer to its ultimate goal of returning Greater Israel into a reality. And each time the world averts its gaze and lets Israel get away with violating its neighbor's sovereignty, Israel's leaders get more emboldened. History shows us that expansionist powers won't stop unless they're forced to.
While Iranian territory is not affected by the plans for Greater Israel, Iran has been bombed from without and is being destabilized from within. This is because Iran represents the greatest potential resistance to the Greater Israel project in the region. The layers of deception over what is happening in Iran right now are so thick that I'm going to play parts of a new segment by comedian and commentator Jimmy Dore on this subject.
Their own press is reporting that Israel is supplying not only arms to the Iranian protesters, but they're marching side by side with them. The Mossad is. Do you have time to cover this? Do you need to go?
What do you mean Mossad is helping the Iranians? It doesn't make sense, Jimmy. Doesn't sound like something they do.
So this is from the Times of Israel. Right-wing Israeli TV report fuels rumors that Israel is supplying arms to protesters. So a reporter for Israel's right-wing Channel 14 hinted, he did more than hint, that Israel was supplying arms to Iranian protesters, sparking an outcry in Arabic media and even prompting Iran's foreign minister to seize upon the report and accuse Israel of trying to foment war between Iran and the U.S. No, imagine our chagrin. Channel 14, which is seen as close to Prime Minister Netanyahu, said in an unsourced report Tuesday that foreign actors were arming the regime. So here it is. Tonight, we published in the main edition of Channel 14, foreign elements are arming the protesters in Iran with live weapons, and this is the reason for hundreds of dead among the regime's people. Anyone is free to guess who we're talking about. So, of course, he's talking about Israel and the Mossad, and hits us from the cradle. The cradle says that here is footage that shows a highly trained group of individuals preparing an attack in Iran on Thursday, January 8th, loading weapons, concealing firearms under clothing, and using satellite communications believed to be linked to foreign intelligence agencies. Okay, so let's watch a little bit of that. So here they are. So there they are unloading the satellite system of communication right there. There they are, terrorists with a rifle. Here's some more. Terrorists with a submachine gun. Okay, here's terrorists with a Kalashnikov rifle. Terrorists preparing. Here's terrorists hiding weapons underneath his jacket. And then here's a terrorist distributing equipment and ammunition. And then here they're going to show you one using the satellite system. Coming up right over here. So there it is, satellite radio communication system. There they are. You can see it. And then they gave orders to initiate attack and came through the satellite. Another terrorist. So there it is. Even Trump's CIA director from his first term, Mike Pompeo, he says, Happy New Year to every Iranian in the streets. Also to every Mossad agent walking beside them. I mean, they just say it right out loud.
Believe it or not, the Greater Israel Project leads us to the uncovering of billions of dollars worth of fraud behind Somali daycares in Minnesota. This particular fraud has been going on for over a decade. It was only recently uncovered by social media influencer Nick Shirley. But you see, everything is connected. Israel was one of the first nations to recognize the new nation of Somaliland, a breakaway nation from Somalia. Israel has also created a $700 million propaganda fund designed to put a positive spin on the genocide it's carrying out in Gaza. Social media influencers, like Nick Shirley, have been earning up to $7,000 per post in this campaign. Is it just a coincidence that this same Nick Shirley has turned America's perception against the Somali culture at the same time that Israel would like to move refugees from Gaza to Somaliland? The purchasing power of the US dollar is crumbling because as the world is increasingly flooded with American dollars, the value of each dollar printed is worth less and less. This is symbolized in this illustration through all the currency flooding the world. Then again, the cover of The Economist magazine told us this would happen to all nations in January 1988, after which a new financial system would arise, like a phoenix rising from the ashes of a burning pile of currencies. The elite of the world know that all the world's fiat currencies are failing together for the first time in history. This is why they are increasingly turning to precious metals as a way to preserve their purchasing power. After being criminally suppressed for 45 years, the futures market, which has controlled the price of silver, has been overwhelmed by physical demand for the metal. This suppression is so massive that there are approximately 375 ounces worth of silver futures contracts for every ounce of physical silver that are stored in the bankers' vaults connected to the futures market. You can't build AI data centers with virtual silver, and you can't build solar panels with silver futures contracts. From China to America, a small percentage of the world is waking up to the increasing financial power of silver. This is especially true now that Samsung has developed a game-changing solid-state EV battery that apparently can be fully recharged in 9 minutes and has a range of 900 kilometers or 560 miles. Each of these batteries requires a kilogram or 32 ounces of silver. When the futures market finally fails to deliver the physical silver that they say they have, the price of actual silver will soar from $30 an ounce in 2025 to at least $200 an ounce, most likely in 2026. Most of the world, however, doesn't realize that gold and silver are money and that everything else is credit. The $10 trillion banknote on the left might be worth $10 on eBay. The $5 silver maple on the right, however, is worth over $80 at any coin shop. You could try to give a 10-ounce silver bar or a chocolate bar away to people, and most people would choose the chocolate bar. I know you think I'm joking.
It's your lucky day today. You win a free 10-ounce silver bar, pure silver bullion, or a free Hershey's king-size chocolate bar.
Take this one.
You'll take the chocolate bar. Who needs a 10-ounce bar of silver? Right? Have a good day. It's your choice. A free 10-ounce bar of silver bullion or a free king-size Hershey bar.
I think I'll take the Hershey bar.
Go ahead. It's your lucky day. Just fresh out of the refrigerator.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Who needs a 10-ounce bar of silver when you can have a good, delicious bar of chocolate, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
You'd rather have the Hershey bar than the silver bar?
Yes, I would.
Oh, you would? Okay.
Yeah, the Hershey bar, you can eat the silver bar.
Yeah, that's right. You can't eat the silver. What are you going to do with a 10-ounce bar of silver, right? You know. Which one do you want?
Probably the chocolate, because I'm a girl and it's kind of cranky day.
Okay, it's yours. Eat it quick because it's getting hot out here. Just offering people a free Hershey bar today or a free silver bar. Which one would you prefer?
Silver. I'll take the...
Who needs a silver bar?
You could dump an entire monster box of 500 one-ounce silver coins into a small wheelbarrow and try to give away the silver coins to people on the street only to be met with resistance because they don't understand that silver is money and that paper currencies represent the illusion of money.
All right, my friend, please, guess how much is in here, and I give you some. How much?
7,000.
7,000? For you, how much is in here?
I would say about 12,000, 20,000. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, no. You don't gotta go. You don't gotta be scared. How much is in here so I can get you some silver, bro? How much value of silver is in here? How much is it worth? Value in dollars. $200. $200 worth of silver? Why don't you check how much this is and come back to me, okay? See you later.
Your father or grandfather might have earned the minimum wage of $1.25 an hour back in 1963. But back then, $1.25 actually bought you something. That is because those 5 quarters in $1.25 contained roughly an ounce of silver. Today, those 5 mostly silver quarters are worth at least $80. So let me ask you a question. Are you being paid $80 an hour? If not, without giving you financial advice, how stupid is it to put some of your increasingly worthless currency into silver? Very soon, gold and silver will become unaffordium and unobtainium, and the electronic credits you keep earning will buy you less and less. The rest of the world is increasingly resisting the US dollar through the BRICS alliance. After wondering whether the BRICS nations will ever develop their own regional currency, I realized that they don't have to. Now that a standard 400-ounce gold bar is worth around $1.8 million, all the BRICS nations have to do is settle their trades in gold. President Trump's plan to increase the American military budget to $1.5 trillion and the spending of $500 billion on AI data centers designed to control you are just two examples of wasteful spending designed to increase control outside of and inside the United States. Now that President Trump has made biometric records mandatory for entry into America, I will no longer be visiting the United States.
A newly implemented U.S. policy is adding another layer of scrutiny for travelers. It is now mandatory for non-U.S. citizens, including Canadians, to take part in a facial biometrics program. Travelers will be subject to photographs when entering and leaving the country by all modes of transport.
You're exposing your identity to, government, and I believe that we should have, freedom, our own personal rights to, keep our identity to ourselves.
Privacy experts are concerned about where those photos could end up.
The fewer places where this data resides, the better, because once it's taken and it can be used by other people.
The Department of Homeland Security says it can't delete personally identifiable data like photos and only keep a record of entry or exit. It says files can be stored for as long as 75 years for law enforcement and immigration tracking purposes. Canadians are not the only travelers facing new border security measures. Earlier this month, U.S. President Donald Trump expanded the list of countries facing full or partial travel restrictions to 39. The administration is also proposing requiring certain tourists to submit 5 years of their social media history before entering the country.
It's one thing after another.
This dual citizen and immigration lawyer says the photo policy could have a chilling effect on cross-border travel at a time when Canada-U.S. relations are already strained and travel to the U.S. has been down for months.
With all of these restrictions and the rhetoric, it's deterring so many people in Canada from entering the U.S., either to shop or just to vacation.
Some Canadians, however, say they don't mind being photographed.
It doesn't really bother me, given that we're doing nothing wrong.
While the new rule is now in effect, officials say implementation could take time, making the true impact unclear for now. Yasmin Ghaneya, CBC News, Surrey, BC.
DOGE wasn't about government efficiency. It was about the billionaire tech bros like Elon Musk taking your information from all government departments, then putting it onto data centers being built now. One of those data centers will be below the new ballroom that President Trump has ordered. It's no surprise that after pretending to be frenemies, Elon Musk is back donating to the Republican Party. There will be plenty of distractions designed to divert your attention away from the beast system being built now by the right, because at least it's not being built by the left. While the rest of the world descends into communism, America is metastasizing into corporatism, also known as fascism. All this is being set up so that there will be an ultimate conflict known as World War III, which I believe will occur sometime between 2028 and 2036. This is just an educated guess on my part, based on my understanding of the ties between historic and economic cycles, which leads to conflict in the West every 80 years or so. Remember, when all else fails, the elite take the people to war. America's 250th birthday party is going to be big, and it's going to be huge. Then there's the Winter Olympics in Italy and the 2026 World Cup being held throughout North America. Video games will soon be controlled by the human mind, and robots will be everywhere. Finally, there are syringes and pills throughout this illustration. By keeping the masses drugged up, they are less likely to notice the systems of control being built all around them. I don't believe the elite are going to release another pandemic. Far too much information has been accepted by the growing number of people about the scamdemic, plandemic, for those in power to try it again. As most of you know, I'm working on the most important film of my life called COVID-19 Beyond Human. I've decided to balance working on my largest film project ever with providing much more frequent updates. Much of the film's content will now be given 1 or 2 chapters at a time in these update videos. This will allow me to avoid factual errors in the final release of the film through feedback in the comments section below or by private email, and will also give me the space to address current events in a timely fashion. With that in mind, here is a chapter from the film. The so-called COVID-19 vaccines were far more dangerous than the virus, and Pfizer's own study can be used to prove this point. In this document with a long title, we learn a horrible truth. On page 115 in what was a confidential report, we arrive at section 8.3.6.1 called Occupational Exposure. Here we read, an occupational exposure occurs when a person receives unplanned direct contact with the study intervention, which may or may not lead to the occurrence of an adverse event. Such persons may include healthcare providers, family members, and other roles that are involved in the trial participants' care. This study was being worked on in early December 2019, before the world heard of COVID-19. Page 116 reads, the investigator must report occupational exposure to Pfizer safety within 24 hours of the investigator's awareness, regardless of whether there is an associated sudden adverse event. In other words, any contact between the unvaccinated and someone who was injected with a Pfizer COVID vaccine was supposed to be recorded. According to this same document from Pfizer on page 114, this is because the COVID-19 vaccines may spread through inhalation or skin contact. For all those who were vaccinated for COVID-19 and insisted that everyone else around them also be vaccinated, congratulations. You vaccinated people around you against their knowledge or consent. I most likely had personal experience with COVID vaccine shedding, and I know I'm not the only one. My father was placed in a personal care home after a series of strokes, where a COVID vaccine was mandatory. The only time I may have contracted COVID was after direct contact with my father, who was vaccinated for COVID. It was the only time I was sick for many years, and it flattened me for days. There is an excellent, well-balanced article on the subject of COVID vaccine shedding published in the Persian Gulf Insider called COVID Vaccine Shedding is Real, FDA and Pfizer documents are proof, clinicians. The article balances Pfizer's own documentation and testimonies from patients on one side of the issue with the proof by definition argument from vaccinologists on the other side of the issue. The COVID vaccines use genetic material, which is a piece of RNA based on SARS-CoV-2, to prompt an immune response. The COVID-19 vaccines are not gene therapy, which cause permanent changes in one's DNA. The issue here is how long and to what extent the COVID-19 vaccines can trigger an immune response. This is true even in people who merely come into contact with someone who was vaccinated for COVID-19, according to Pfizer's own confidential study, which we just read. Another study in the Annals of Case Reports, published in October 2025, provides another answer to the issue of biodistribution of the COVID-19 vaccines. The study is entitled Detection of Pfizer-BioNTech Messenger RNA COVID-19 Vaccine in Human Blood, Placenta, and Semen. The abstract concludes that vaccine mRNA remained detectable in approximately half of the samples collected more than 200 days after vaccination, indicating prolonged persistence in the body. You don't need to be a doctor to realize that this may affect fertility and who gets vaccinated for COVID-19 without their knowledge or consent. Dr. Arnie Burkhardt spoke at a conference of doctors and PhDs in the fields of medicine, pathology, and biology in Stockholm in January 2023. The late Dr. Burkhardt, a German pathologist, came out of retirement after a career of more than 40 years during COVID and personally conducted dozens of autopsies on those who received vaccinations for COVID-19. His findings have been verified by over 3,500 volunteers who combed through the over 450,000 pages of information that Pfizer had on their COVID vaccines, which the company wanted to remain confidential for 75 years. This literal truckload of information was only made public through court order, the highlights of which are presented in this book. Here is a small sample of what Dr. Burkhardt presented at this conference.
We could confirm that the spike protein is produced in the deltoid muscles where the vaccine is administered, injected. But we could show it in almost all organs, more or less explicitly. And here you see a case where we show the testes, and you can see that in this 28-year-old man who had a healthy son and who died 140 days after injection, the spike protein is strongly expressed in the spermatogenic organ in the testes, and you can see there are almost no spermatocytes in here, but it's strongly expression of spike protein in the spermatogonic tissue. So also in elder persons, this is an old man, and you can see here's also a strong expression in the spermatogonia. There's not one single spermatozoon in this, and a strong expression of the spike protein.
Dr. Burkhardt just told you that seed was being replaced with spike protein in men. What Dr. Burkhardt said next, and the reaction of the medical professionals in attendance, will confirm this.
If I may make a personal comment, this is not a scientific comment. If I were a woman in fertile age, I would not plan a motherhood from a man who has been vaccinated, unless I think these pictures are very disturbing for me.
Some of you will still not accept what you were just shown, despite the overwhelming evidence that supports it. You will insist that if what you were just told is true, then the governments around the world would sue COVID-19 vaccine manufacturers. Sasha Latipova, a pharmaceutical R&D executive, addressed this concern at the same conference in Stockholm in January 2023 in a way that made the hundreds of medical professionals in attendance give her a standing ovation.
Pfizer already in court stated that, please dismiss this case, Judge. We did not defraud the government. We delivered the fraud that the government ordered.
I'm going to end this New World Order report the same way that I always do. There is no point in knowing any of this if your soul isn't in the hands of Jesus Christ. What is the point of being the most informed person in hell? If you want nothing to do with Jesus Christ in this life, you will have nothing to do with Jesus Christ in the next. God will give you what you wanted. If you have acknowledged that Jesus Christ died for you so you don't have to, then rejoice. The Bible says in Luke 21:28, "And when these things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh." I'm going to close this New World Order report with a piece of a recent sermon from Philip Anthony Mitchell. It's time for Christians to wake up, prepare for the worst and hope for the best, stop leaning on corrupt earthly systems of power, and win souls for Jesus Christ. God bless.
This morning at 3 a.m., the Lord violently woke me out of my sleep. And as soon as I woke out of my sleep, I started seeing visions of a systematic, political, and then violent takeover of the United States by a radical ideology that is spreading across the whole world and has entered into the shores of the United States. I started seeing Christians being persecuted through laws and legislations and then physically by this radical ideology. And it was like God was showing me as I'm seeing this in an open vision on the side of my bed in the dark before I could even make it to my prayer room. As I'm seeing this imagery in my mind, there was this strong sense as I'm seeing this imagery like we are very close to the end. It was like I could hear an audible voice saying to me, Philip, my son, we're very close to the end. And as I'm hearing that audible voice, I begin to weep and cry right there on the side of my bed. I'm weeping and I'm crying on the side of my bed as I'm thinking about what I'm seeing in my mind. And I'm thinking about what I'm hearing in my heart. And I'm weeping and I'm crying not only for what I'm seeing, but I'm weeping and I'm crying over you. And I'm weeping and crying over the church in America. And I'm crying in that moment because I'm thinking, if what I'm hearing is the voice of God in this moment, then I'm thinking to myself, God, if it's true that we're closing in on the end of the age, if it's true that we don't have much time left, God, now I'm thinking about all of us who are Christians who are wasting our time, busying ourselves with all of these things that's not going to matter 100 years from now. They may not matter 5 years from now. I thought about all of the activities of Christians who are wasting their time doing things that's not going to matter when they die. I thought about all of us who are filled with so much ambition. We are building monuments like sandcastles that are going to wash away on the shores of judgment. I thought about all the things that we think right now is actually important that does not matter in the sight of God. And I thought about, oh my God, I thought about all of God's children who are running around like blinders on their eyes, running in and out of services and might open a Bible for a second during the week and have no idea that we might be at the very end of the church age. Like I'm hearing this voice like a trumpet blowing in my heart this morning. This very morning I'm hearing this. And I'm weeping. And I'm weeping over you, and I'm weeping over me, and I'm weeping over my children. And I'm wondering like how many of us are really living with this sensitivity to the spirit of where we are on God's prophetic timetable. Like I'm wondering about that. Really, I am. And I'm seeing all of us running around like hamsters on wheels, and we're busy doing this and busy doing that, doing everything other than the things God has called us to do. And this is not just me like trying to scare you, right? This is the Holy Spirit this very morning. I wasn't even going to talk to you like this. This was the Holy Spirit this very morning sounding a warning in my heart to warn America that if the bride of Christ in America, if she does not wake up, if she does not pray, if she does not repent, if she does not stand on business, we will be held captive in our own country by a radical ideology. We will fall very quickly and our children will suffer. This is me warning America